There is a presence within you, older than time and softer than silence. It does not shout, it does not rush, it does not demand. It simply is. A quiet flame flickering in the center of your being, untouched by the winds of this world. That presence is light, and it is the truth of who you are. You were not born into this world as an accident or a coincidence. You did not arrive as a blank slate or a broken soul in need of earning your place. No, you emerged from the womb of eternity, already radiant, already worthy, already whole. You did not come here to become the light. You came from the light. You are the light. Before you had a name, before you wore a face, before the world told you what to be, you were pure presence. You were the breath of the divine wrapped in human form. And nothing the world has done or failed to do has ever touched that truth. But the journey of life is not without its veils. Slowly, subtly, we begin to forget. The noise of the world grows louder than the whisper of the soul. We begin to trade our light for approval, our essence for acceptance. We begin to believe the illusion that we are separate from each other, from source, from our own divinity. And yet, no matter how far we wander, the light remains. Not in some distant heaven, not in the applause of others, but in the silence beneath all sound. It waits like the sun behind the clouds, never diminished by our forgetting, never offended by our doubt, patient, still, unyielding. You are not your mistakes. You are not your story. You are not the name on your resume or the weight of your pain. You are the awareness beneath it all, the witnessing presence, the sacred stillness. You are the beam of eternity passing through a moment of time. And when you remember this, truly remember it, something shifts. The need to prove dissolves. The urgency to become fades. And in its place rises a calm knowing. You already are what you've been searching for. The light you seek is not something to find, it is something to uncover. It is not an achievement, it is a remembering. And remembering does not require striving. It requires surrender. It asks not for effort, but for stillness. Not for more, but for less. Less pretending, less resisting, less noise. The ego fears the stillness. It thrives on performance, on comparison, on the illusion of control. It whispers, you are not enough. You must do more. You must be more. But the soul sings a different song. You are already whole. You are already home. Rest, beloved, return. This is not poetry, it is truth. The same truth that dances in the Tao, that breathes through the teachings of Jesus, that echoes in the words of Rumi. It is the truth that all rivers eventually flow toward. You are divine. You are eternal. You are light made visible for a brief, beautiful moment. And in that moment, what will you do with your breath? Will you use it to chase shadows, or will you use it to shine? Will you run from the parts of yourself that ache to be held, or will you turn inward with mercy in your hands and whisper, I see you, I love you, you are safe here. Because this light within you, it does not judge, it does not blame, it does not wait for perfection. It loves without condition. It welcomes every part of you home, the shame, the grief, the yearning, all of it. Nothing is too broken for the light. In fact, it is through the cracks that the light pours most freely. You see, healing is not about becoming something new. It is about removing the lies that covered what was never broken. It is the return to your original radiance, the sacred unlearning of everything that made you forget your own brilliance. And yes, the world may resist this. It may ask you to armor up, to dim your glow, to stay in line. But do not shrink to fit the mold of the unconscious. Do not trade your soul's knowing for the fleeting approval of the asleep. Walk gently, but walk true. Speak softly, but speak from the fire within you. And when the world says, who do you think you are? Smile with the wisdom of the cosmos and say, I am light clothed in form, remembering itself. This remembering is the beginning of true freedom. Not freedom from discomfort, but freedom within it. Not the escape from life, but the embrace of it, all of it. The beauty and the mess, the joy and the ache. Because when you know who you are, no experience can define you. You remain untouched, like the sky behind the clouds. And so I invite you to stop trying to shine. You already shine. I invite you to stop seeking the divine. You already are the divine. Let the mind rest. Let the heart open. Let the body soften into presence. The light you were born from still burns in you. And when this life ends, as all forms do, you will not vanish, you will return. Return not to nothingness, but to everything. Return to the radiance that sent you here. Return to the infinite sea from which you emerged. You are not the wave, frantic and fleeting. You are the ocean, calm and eternal. You are not the flicker of light. You are the sun itself. You are not a visitor in the temple of existence. You are the temple. You are the sacred. You are the source. And nothing, no mistake, no loss, no story can take that away. So breathe. Remember, you were born from light, and to light you shall return. And so as you stand here now, not in some distant future, not at the end of some mystical journey, but here in this moment, in this breath, let your awareness deepen like a river surrendering to the ocean. Let every inhale be a remembrance, every exhale a release of what no longer serves the soul's unfolding. You are not waiting for your light to be lit. You are remembering that it never went out. You do not need more time to become what you already are. You do not need more approval to walk the path your spirit already knows. And you do not need more certainty to trust the step that arises in the stillness. The acorn does not ask permission to become the oak. It surrenders to its nature, and your nature is to expand gently, powerfully, inevitably, back into the fullness of your being. The mind may try to measure your progress, to chart your growth like a map of milestones, but the soul does not operate in linearity. It dances in spirals, in moments of presence, in sacred detours. Your journey is not forward, it is inward, deeper, not higher, closer, not farther. The world may praise your productivity, but your soul celebrates your presence. The world may glorify achievement, but your essence knows that being is the highest form of doing. When you return to being, when you stop trying to fix the river and instead allow it to flow, you become what you were always meant to be, an instrument for grace, a channel for love, a vessel of light. There is a tenderness inside you, long overlooked, a gentleness that has endured storms, carried burdens, and kept beating even when the world forgot to listen. That tenderness is not weakness, it is your greatest strength. It is the soft resilience of a heart that refuses to close, no matter how many times it has been broken. Let yourself feel again, not just the peaks, but the quiet in-betweens, the pause before the next step, the ache before the next awakening, the silence that follows surrender. For in these spaces, the soul speaks not with commands or conditions, but with the loving authority of truth. You are not here to conquer your life. You are here to commune with it, to listen to its seasons, to respect its rhythms, to bow before its mysteries. What appears as delay is often divine timing. What you call failure may be sacred redirection. What seems like emptiness may, in fact, be the spaciousness required for your spirit to expand. And if you could see what I see, what the source within you sees, you would never again doubt your worth. You would never again shrink to be understood. You would walk like the sun moves across the sky, radiant, effortless, unapologetically true. You do not belong to your past. It was a chapter, not your definition. You do not belong to your pain. It was a lesson, not your identity. And you do not belong to the opinions of others. They are mirrors, not masters. You belong to the light. You belong to the infinite. You belong to the great mystery that birthed galaxies and placed a breath in your lungs. And that light is calling you not to strive, but to return. Not to ascend, but to descend into the body, into the now, into the sacred ground of your own existence. There is no enlightenment without embodiment. There is no spiritual awakening that bypasses your humanity. You are not here to escape the world, you are here to illuminate it. So let yourself be seen, not the persona, not the performance, but the soul. Let your eyes reflect the stars they came from. Let your voice carry the vibration of truth. Let your presence be the permission others need to stop hiding. When one soul remembers, it lights the way for many. And when you live as the light, you don't need to say a word, your being becomes the sermon. You were not sent here to convince the world of your worth. You were sent here to embody it so fully that even the darkest places remember their own light in your presence. There is a sanctity in your breath, a holiness in your heartbeat, a divinity in the act of simply being. And yet we so often miss this sacred truth because we've been taught to only see the extraordinary in noise and climax and applause. But real power, soul power, is quiet. It is the unmoved center. It is the silence in which galaxies turn. And it is this silence that is asking you now to come home. You were never meant to hustle your way into worthiness. You were meant to remember that you were crafted by a presence so infinite, so wise, it did not need to consult the world before declaring you enough. You are not a project to be completed. You are a mystery to be experienced. You are not raw material for some future version of perfection. You are already whole, already divine, already ablaze, with the energy that spoke stars into being. But to see this clearly, the mind must bow. The endless stream of thoughts, so loud, so insistent, must soften into the background so that the deeper knowing may rise. Not the knowing that comes from logic, but the knowing that feels like recognition. That sacred moment when you look into the eyes of a stranger and remember something ancient. That knowing is your essence. It cannot be taught, it can only be revealed. And once revealed, even for a breath, it shifts the gravity of your entire life. Suddenly, success is no longer about achieving, it's about aligning. Purpose is no longer a target, it's the direction of your inner compass. Love is no longer a transaction, it becomes the language you speak simply by being real. You begin to realize that peace was never far. It was just buried beneath the need to prove, the compulsion to control, the fear of not being enough. You begin to understand that joy is not a product of perfection. It is the natural state of the unburdened soul. And love, true love, has nothing to do with performance. It is what remains when all masks fall away. Your path is not to acquire more light, but to strip away everything that conceals it. The fear, the self-judgment, the inherited shame. These are not who you are. They are garments you were given, not your skin. They are echoes of a world that forgot its own divinity. But you are here to remember. You are the breath of God taking form for a moment, not to climb ladders of comparison, not to gather trophies of survival, but to simply live as truth embodied. That means showing up when it's hard. That means loving even when it hurts. That means letting the raw, unscripted moments be the temple in which your light bows to itself. Do not wait until life is easier to be fully here. Do not wait until the chaos ends to listen to your soul. The soul speaks clearest when the world is loudest, not because it raises its voice, but because its whisper never wavers. It is the stillness behind the storm, the eye in the center of every hurricane. This stillness is your birthright. This unwavering calm, not dependent on conditions, not reactive to outcomes, is the truth of your being. When you sit in it, when you dwell there, you realize something profound. You no longer need to chase love, because you are the space in which love arises. You are not the seeker. You are what is sought. And even if every story you've been told says otherwise, even if every voice in the world insists you must earn your place, there is one voice, timeless, formless, eternal, that simply says, you are. That is enough. That has always been enough. That will always be enough. Then let us walk further into this unfolding silence, this living breath of eternity that stirs in you not as a future to be chased, but as a presence to be welcomed. You are not on your way to the light. You are the light on its way into the world. And though the path may seem winding, each curve is a grace in disguise, each detour a deeper invitation into truth. The illusion that you are broken is the final veil, the last deception that keeps the soul from opening its arms to itself. You have never been broken. You have only believed a story that said you must be something more than what you are. But you are not an error waiting to be corrected. You are a note in the symphony of all things, perfectly tuned even in your dissonance. When the sun sets, we do not mourn its vanishing, we trust in its return. So too, when your light seems dimmed by sorrow or confusion, know that the essence remains unchanged. Light does not disappear, it rests, it gathers. It prepares to rise again with even greater softness, and so must you. Your sacredness is not conditional. It is not earned by suffering, nor revoked by failure. It is not increased by the applause of others, nor diminished by their indifference. Sacredness is your nature, just as wetness belongs to water. To deny it is to forget, not to lose. And to remember it is to return not to a belief, but to a being. Return to this being. Breathe into it as you would into a wound, gently, patiently, with reverence. There is healing waiting not in effort, but in acceptance. Not in becoming, but in allowing. There is a wisdom deeper than thought, older than words, residing in the core of your awareness. It asks only one thing: stop running. Stop running from your grief. Stop running from your silence. Stop running from the love that asks you to put down the armor and receive what has always been yours. When you cease running, you find the truth was not ahead of you. It was beneath your feet, within your chest, behind your eyes. It was you. The mind will resist this because to the mind, being is not enough. It wants definition. It wants certainty. But the soul breathes in mystery. It trusts in what cannot be seen. It knows that the most sacred things like peace, love, presence are not products but presences. They are not destinations but doorways. They open when you stop knocking and simply become the silence in which they dwell. In this space, identity softens. You begin to remember not what you've achieved, but what you are. You are not your name, not your history, not even your personality. You are the field in which all of these arise and dissolve. You are the light behind the roles, the one who watches, the one who loves. And when this remembrance dawns, there is no longer a need to control the narrative. You become less interested in being understood and more devoted to being true. You no longer fear the unknown, for you have come to recognize yourself as the unknown, the formless awareness in which all forms dance. This is the liberation the ego could never manufacture. Not a freedom that comes from what you have, but from what you are no longer attached to. Not a joy that depends on circumstances, but a joy that arises from the unshakable ground of presence itself. So let the mind ask its questions. Let the world keep its pace. You are not obligated to match its urgency. You are here for something deeper, quieter, eternal. You are not a product of this world. You are a presence moving through it. There is nothing more disarming than realness. Not the curated self, not the filtered presentation, but the raw, unpolished essence of you, the you that trembles and hopes and wonders and loves anyway. That is the self the world longs to meet, because that is the self that heals others by existing. Not by trying, not by performing, but by simply standing as a mirror for what is already divine in everyone else. And yet, to arrive here to this radical truth, one must be willing to be seen, not the ideal, but the actual, not the polished diamond, but the coal, soft with humility and rich with becoming. The soul doesn't rise through perfection, it rises through surrender. It blooms not when you are flawless, but when you are honest. There is no arrival more sacred than the moment you stop trying to be the light and realize you've never been anything else. Every attempt to reach it, every striving, every performance was a journey through the fog, but now you're standing where you've always been with nothing left to chase and everything left to feel. Let yourself feel, without editing, without bracing. Let the ache speak. Let the joy move through you like a breeze that needs no invitation. Let your tenderness no longer be hidden as weakness, but revealed as the courage it truly is. For it takes immense strength to remain open in a world that teaches closure. And yes, you have remained open, even in your forgetting, even in your pain, even when you thought you'd lost your way. Something in you stayed soft. Something in you said yes to this moment. That something is your essence. That is the light. That is God remembering itself through you. You were never abandoned. You were never truly disconnected. The light was simply covered by noise, by fear, by the accumulation of all the things you thought you had to be. But light cannot be lost. It can only be obscured. And now, in this breath, the clouds begin to part. You are not here to argue with your past. You are here to extract the wisdom from it like gold from the earth. Every sorrow has softened you into compassion. Every fall has bent you into humility. Every silence has deepened your listening. And this depth, it is your power. You do not rise by denying what has been. You rise by honoring every step of the path and seeing it all as sacred. Not just the peaks, but the valleys. Not just the triumphs, but the tremblings. The soul does not judge your journey, it sanctifies it. It blesses the bruises as much as the breakthroughs. This is why there is no such thing as a wasted life. No such thing as being too late. Because the moment you remember the truth, the illusion of time collapses, and all that remains is this, the eternal now. And in this now you are whole. You do not need to become, you need only to unfold, to allow, to soften. And in that softness, the light that you are begins to shine without effort. It begins to radiate not just from your smile or your words, but from your stillness, your gaze, your presence. This is what changes the world. Not louder voices, not bigger plans, but beings who have remembered their original light and who walk with humility and reverence among those still trying to remember. Then let us drift deeper still, carried not by force, but by the invisible stream of remembrance that has always been pulling you inward, even when you mistook its tug for restlessness. What you call longing was never lack. It was the soul beckoning you back to the center. Not to escape life, but to finally live it from truth. And truth, beloved, is not a belief system. It is not a philosophy or a doctrine. It is the resonance you feel when you stop pretending. It is the peace that arrives when you finally stop negotiating with your own divinity. You have searched far and wide, tried on many masks, wandered through many landscapes of becoming, but now, at last, you are arriving. And arrival has nothing to do with geography. It is not found in a new city or in a better version of yourself. Arrival happens the moment you stop striving and sit down inside your own being, as if to say, here, I will be here now as I am, and that is enough. That is when the light begins to move differently through you, not because you forced it, but because you stopped resisting it. You stopped editing your soul to make it palatable. You stopped bargaining with your worth, and in that sacred pause, the divine finds space to breathe through you again. And isn't that all you've ever truly wanted, not to be more, but to be free? Free to feel without judgment, free to speak without filtering, free to exist not as a project in progress, but as a presence, holy and whole. This freedom is not something you earn. It is something you remember, something you reclaim from the ashes of forgetfulness. The world may still ask you to prove. Let it ask. You no longer need to answer from your defenses. You can answer from your being. You can meet each challenge, each misunderstanding, not with armor, but with awareness. The more you remember who you are, the less you react. The more you respond with grace, with depth, with love, unshaken by conditions. You are not here to teach others with your superiority. You are here to remind them through your humility, not through lessons shouted from mountaintops, but through the quiet revolution of a life lived in alignment, a life that whispers, it is safe to be true, it is sacred to be soft, it is holy to be real. And when the world offers its chaos, when life shakes the branches of your becoming, you will not break. You will bend with the wind, rooted not in certainty, but in faith, faith not in outcome, but in essence. You will know that storms do not destroy the tree that remembers its roots. And your root is light, the light from which you came, the light to which you return, the light that lives as you in this very moment. It has never flickered. It has never wavered. It is your truest name, your deepest home. And the more you let yourself live from this light, the less you will need to explain yourself to the world. Let your presence become your prayer. Let your silence become your song. Let your tears be not proof of weakness, but proof that your heart is still open to the sacredness of life. And when doubt comes knocking, as it surely will, do not fear it. Greet it like an old traveler returning for one last visit, but do not offer it your bed. Let it pass. For doubt may visit, but it can never live where truth is known. You are not here to carry the world. You are here to carry light into it. Not through performance, but through presence. Not by striving, but by shining. And when you shine from the soul, not to be seen, but because you can no longer hide, others will remember their light through you. You were born from light, not metaphorically, not symbolically, but truly. Before cells were woven into form, before heartbeat and breath, you were light consciousness unbound, infinite and eternal. And you chose to take this human journey, not to escape that light, but to embody it. To walk through the veils of forgetting, through the rivers of loss and longing, so that when you remembered, you would carry the wisdom of contrast, the grace of compassion, the humility of one who has knelt before both shadow and Sunday. Every sorrow softened you for this moment. Every doubt prepared your surrender. Every night when you thought you were alone, the light waited patiently beneath your pain. Not to fix it, but to cradle it, to sanctify it, to show you that even your wounds were woven into your awakening. And now you see clearly. The stories the world gave you are dissolving. The roles are falling away like autumn leaves, and you are standing, finally, in the full nakedness of your being. There is nothing to become. There is only the breath, the presence, the unfathomable beauty of being here now as yourself. This is your liberation. Not from the body, not from the world, but from the illusion that you were ever anything less than divine. You are not a mistake dressed in skin. You are not a soul fallen from grace. You are the grace. You are the light wrapped in time for a while, walking through the dream, not to escape it, but to awaken inside it. So walk now, not as a seeker, but as a light bearer. Let each step bless the ground it touches. Let your words be slow, rooted in soul. Let your presence speak louder than any proclamation. The world does not need more noise. It needs more hearts that remember who they are. You are not here to change yourself. You are here to love yourself so deeply that everything falls away. You are not here to chase love. You are here to become so filled with it that it spills into every room you enter. You are not here to find peace. You are here to realize that peace is what you are when you stop pretending to be anything else. The time has come. Lay down the armor, step out from the roles, let go of the striving. The light is not waiting for you in some far-off heaven. It is pouring through your breath now, illuminating your bones, bathing your thoughts, radiating from your chest. And when this life concludes, as all forms must, you will not end. You will not disappear. You will simply dissolve back into the light from which you came, like a wave returning to the sea, not lost but home, not forgotten but free. You will remember what has always been true. I was never alone. I was never broken. I was always the light. And that remembrance will not be new. It will be ancient. It will feel like a sunrise you've seen 1,000 times in dreams. It will feel like coming home to a place you never left. So rest now, luminous soul, not in stillness alone, but in knowing. Rest in the grace of your own being. Rest in the breath that breathes you. Rest in the light that never left you. Rest in the love that has always been. You are born from light, and to light you return. You are not a product of the world. You are not a citizen of culture, a member of a tribe, or a name in a census. You are not the mask you wear in the marketplace, nor the role you play in the theater of approval. You are something older, deeper, wider than any label could contain. You are a soul dressed in temporary form, an eternal flame wrapped in skin and breath. And you belong not to the world, but to the universe. There's a silence inside you older than language, wiser than the intellect, softer than the world's roar. It is the echo of the divine. It is the hum of the cosmos vibrating in your being. You were born of this silence. You return to it when the world's noise collapses. And in that return, you are not diminished. You are expanded. The world will try to define you. It will tell you who to be, how to feel, what to chase. It will lure you into identities forged in fear, shaped by lack, and measured by the applause of others. But you are not here to conform. You are here to awaken. You are not here to compete. You are here to remember. Remember that you are already whole, already held, already holy. The ego shouts its demands. It needs to be right, to be praised, to be seen. But the soul simply shines. It does not argue. It does not compare. It does not need the validation of the world because it knows its worth is rooted in something far beyond it. The soul is the presence behind the personality, the sky behind the storm, the ocean beneath the waves of thought. Do you feel it now? That subtle nudge within you, that quiet knowing that says there is more to you than this. That knowing is not delusion, it is direction. It is the pull of the infinite calling you home. You belong to the universe, not because you are grand in the eyes of men, but because you are intimate with the infinite. The stars do not ask you to shine brighter. They ask you to remember that you are made of their light. The moon does not judge your phases. It waxes and wanes with you. The wind does not rush you. It invites you to breathe. You belong to the rhythm of existence, the dance of atoms, the stillness beyond form. And the moment you surrender your identity as a citizen of the world and reclaim your essence as a child of the universe, life begins to flow differently. You begin to trust, not in outcomes, but in presence, not in control, but in surrender. You stop asking, what do they think of me? And begin asking, what does my soul know to be true? Jesus said, be in the world, but not of it. The Tao whispers, do your work, then step back. The only path to serenity. And Rumi reminds you, you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. These are not poetic exaggerations. They are blueprints of awakening. They are invitations to step out of the trance of survival and into the grace of remembrance. To live as one who belongs to the universe is not to reject the world. It is to stop being ruled by it. It is to love without attachment, to serve without self-importance, to walk through the world with bare feet and an open heart, knowing you need nothing from it, because everything you are seeking is already within. Your healing does not lie in fixing your image. Your freedom does not come from achieving more. Your peace is not the reward of perfection. It is the natural state of the soul, remembered when the illusions fall away. You are not here to fit in. You are here to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And who you are is stardust and stillness, silence and song, breath and boundlessness. You are the eyes through which the universe sees itself. You are the hands through which love touches form. You are not here by accident. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are becoming. So, pause. Let the world spin. Let the roles dissolve. Let the striving settle. Return to the place within you where time does not tick, where names do not matter, where the world cannot reach. There you will remember you were never meant to be defined. You were meant to be felt. You were never meant to be controlled. You were meant to flow. You were never meant to be small. You were meant to shine with the light of 1,000 suns. You belong to the universe, and the universe belongs to you. And when you begin to live as though the universe is not outside of you, but within you, a quiet revolution stirs beneath your skin. It is not loud, but it is powerful. It does not seek attention, but it commands reverence. You start to see life not as something happening to you, but as something emerging through you, as though every breath you take is the divine breathing itself into form. Every step becomes an act of participation in creation itself, not as a stranger walking borrowed ground, but as a being who knows they belong, deeply, eternally. There is a stillness that arrives when you no longer look for permission to exist. You stop seeking validation from temporary minds to confirm your infinite nature. The flowers do not bloom because someone claps. The rivers do not flow because they are liked. They exist because it is their nature to do so, and so do you. Your peace is not a reward. Your joy is not a prize. Your worth is not a negotiation. They are your inheritance, gifted not by the world, but by existence itself. And as the old illusions dissolve, you begin to move differently, not with urgency, but with grace. You no longer rush to fill the silence, because you understand now. The silence is sacred. It is in that space that wisdom arises uninvited. It is there that you remember truths you were never taught, but always knew. Truths not written in books, but etched into your being before time had a name. You begin to listen not just with your ears, but with your entire presence. You hear the voice beneath the voice, the meaning beyond the words, and you respond, not react from the deepest part of yourself. This is not a learned behavior. This is not technique. This is alignment. The soul's natural rhythm when freed from the distortion of fear, and the world, sensing this alignment, begins to reflect it. Not because it has changed, but because your eyes have. You no longer see enemies, you see beings in pain, reaching clumsily for the same light you've touched. You no longer see setbacks, you see sacred detours. You no longer see life as a puzzle to be solved, but as a poem to be lived, stanza by living stanza. What once felt like burdens now feel like teachers. What once triggered resistance now becomes an invitation to soften. What once demanded an answer now dissolves into the peace of simply not knowing. And this not knowing is no longer a threat, it is a gift. A doorway into the vastness of what cannot be explained, but only experienced. And the more you dwell in this space, the less fragmented you feel. The more you begin to remember that your spirit was never designed to be compartmentalized, broken into parts, defined by roles. You are not just a parent, not just a worker, not just a dreamer. You are a field of consciousness moving through a temporary dance of form. The essence of you is untouched by titles, unshaken by transitions, unchanged by the passing seasons of identity. You begin to walk through life with an open palm, holding nothing too tightly, clinging to no outcome. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand what caring truly means. It means showing up with presence, not attachment. It means offering your energy without demanding a return. It means trusting the intelligence of the universe more than the insecurities of the ego. And in this sacred detachment, you become more connected than ever, not out of need, but out of knowing. Knowing that you and the tree share the same breath, that the stranger's eyes carry the same light, that even your pain is not separate from the love that holds it. Everything begins to speak to you, not in language, but in presence. The wind becomes a teacher, the sunlight, a lover, the silence, a sanctuary. And you at last feel not like a guest in this life, but a participant in its holy unfolding. And slowly, the boundaries you once held so tightly, the borders between self and other, between sacred and ordinary, between spirit and matter begin to dissolve. You realize the walls were never real. They were only the architecture of fear, constructed brick by brick through years of forgetting. Forgetting that there is no inside and outside, no here and there, no you and them. There is only one vast being appearing in countless forms, and you are not merely a part of it, you are it. Localized for a brief and beautiful time, you begin to live with your heart exposed, not as a weakness, but as a strength that no armor could ever match. You learn to cry not from despair, but from the sheer beauty of it all, from the unbearable intimacy of being alive, of being a witness to sunsets and kindness, to music and silence, to endings that ache and beginnings that open like spring. Everything becomes holy because you see through different eyes, the eyes of the soul, which do not judge, do not divide, do not demand. They simply behold. And in that beholding, miracles happen. It is no longer about fixing anything. Healing, you come to see, is not the act of becoming someone new, but the grace of embracing who you've always been beneath the noise. The pain you've carried was not your enemy, it was your messenger. The heartbreak was not your undoing, it was your opening. The doubt was not a flaw. It was the soul's way of cracking the surface to let the light through. And the more you embrace this, the more life becomes less about arriving and more about allowing. You stop looking to cross a finish line and start wondering at each step. Every moment becomes an altar. Every breath, an offering. You do not rush through the grocery store, through the traffic, through the ordinary days. You move as though the divine is in everything because you've begun to see that it is. There is no such thing as mundane when you are awake. And yes, life will still bring storms. This path does not shield you from loss, from uncertainty, from the inevitable unraveling that comes with being human. But now you meet the storms with rootedness. You do not resist the rain, you open to it. You do not curse the thunder, you listen to what it shakes loose. For you know that even in the breakdown, there is breakthrough. Even in the loss, there is the presence of what cannot be lost. And so you begin to live from a deeper rhythm. Not the rhythm of deadlines and expectations, but the rhythm of breath and trust. A rhythm that honors rest. A rhythm that makes space for stillness. A rhythm that knows the soul grows not through speed, but through depth, through listening, through surrender. This is the rhythm of the universe moving through you. And once you align with it, you no longer fear the unknown. You welcome it. Because you know that the same force that grew your bones in the womb, that lights the stars, that brings tides to the shore, is the same force guiding your every step. You don't need to know where you're going. You only need to keep saying yes to the unfolding. And in that yes, something changes. You stop negotiating with your destiny. You stop pleading for signs. You stop waiting to be worthy. Because you realize you are the sign, you are the worth. You are the miracle you've been waiting for. There is a holiness in your being that cannot be touched by circumstance, a light that no darkness can extinguish, a love that asks nothing, proves everything, and waits patiently for you to stop searching and start seeing. And when you live from this place of union, of presence, of undivided awareness, you become a sanctuary for others. Not because you try to be, but because you cannot help but be. Your energy becomes a balm. Your presence, a lighthouse. You are not leading people to yourself, you are leading them back to themselves, simply by being who you are without apology or disguise. And in the quiet, in the stillness of that presence, you hear the most sacred truth of all whispered through the silence. You belong not because of what you've done, not because of what you've proven, not because of how perfectly you followed some path. You belong because you are here, because you exist, because your being is the universe expressing itself in form. And the more you embody that truth, not as an idea, but as your lived reality, the more the world begins to heal. Not through force, not through fighting, but through the radiance of remembrance. one awakened soul at a time. And so you begin to trust your own unfolding. You no longer rush to escape the moment because you recognize that the moment is where eternity meets you. You stop treating the present as a stepping stone to something better and begin to meet it as the only place anything real has ever happened. Here in this breath is all the love you've been searching for. Here is the safety you've been craving. Here is the sacred simplicity of enough. You no longer seek completion in another's eyes. You look into your own reflection and see something you once overlooked. Wholeness, not perfection, not polish, but something far more powerful, the raw, unfiltered truth of being. The untouched core that has never needed to be fixed, only felt. And in that feeling, healing arises, not from effort, but from surrender. Not from striving, but from allowing. Your soul begins to guide you more clearly now. Its voice, once drowned beneath the mind's chatter, begins to rise like a melody remembered in the dark. It speaks not in volume, but in vibration. Not in commands, but in clarity. You learn to listen not for answers, but for alignment. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and begin asking, "What brings me closer to truth, to love, to life?" This is the path of returning not to a place, but to presence. Not to a belief system, but to being. And in this being, you rediscover a wisdom the world forgot. A wisdom that flows like water, unresisting, patient, pure. A wisdom that tells you not to conquer the world, but to embrace it as yourself. The universe has no interest in you becoming something you are not. It is not measuring your progress by how much you accumulate, achieve, or impress. It is only ever asking one question: are you remembering who you are? And when your life begins to answer that question with a soft but resounding yes, the need to compete falls away. The desire to compare dissolves. The fear of missing out vanishes because you see clearly now you are not here to be like anyone else. You are here to be what no one else can be, yourself, fully, fiercely, freely. And you start to love the parts of you that were once hidden in shame. You stop editing your light to make others comfortable. You stop negotiating your intuition in exchange for approval. You rise into yourself not with arrogance, but with reverence. And that rising liberates not just you, it liberates everyone who witnesses your authenticity. You don't need to preach. Your peace will speak for you. You don't need to convince. Your clarity will illuminate. You don't need to perform. Your presence is enough. And those who are ready will feel it. Not as an idea, but as a remembrance in their own bones. Your light becomes a mirror. Your healing becomes a permission slip. Your being becomes a silent invitation back home. Not home as a location, not home as a past, but home as a state of consciousness. A return to the truth that you never left. That even when you wandered far, the universe was never apart from you. That even when you forgot, the divine never did. That even in your darkest hour, the light within you never went out. It only waited patiently for your surrender. And now you are beginning to surrender. Not in defeat, but in devotion, in trust, in the holy act of saying, I no longer need to be anyone else. I am ready to be who I truly am, Co. And when that moment comes, when the veils fall, when the striving ends and the stillness returns, you will know. You are not becoming the light. You are the light. And the world will never be the same because you chose to remember. And as the light of this remembrance grows steadier within you, you begin to sense the sacredness not only in the serenity, but also in the struggle. You start to see that even the moments that once made you flinch were sacred initiations, each one placed along your path not to harm you, but to hollow out space for deeper truth. Pain becomes less of a punishment and more of a portal, a breaking open, not a breaking down. It was never the darkness that was your enemy. It was your forgetting that even there, the light still lived. You no longer resist life's complexities. You begin to understand that growth does not mean perpetual ease. Sometimes it means being stretched, unraveled, stripped of everything false so the true can emerge. And you stop asking the winds to calm you, ask for roots deep enough to hold you when they rise. For you know now, the soul does not blossom in comfort alone. It often awakens through the sacred pressure of becoming. You look around and realize that everyone you meet is also on their way home, each one carrying invisible burdens, each one trying to find their own rhythm in the music of being. Compassion blooms not as an obligation, but as a natural overflow of your own healing. You stop needing people to be perfect. You start seeing them as reflections, some showing you what still needs to be softened in you, and others reminding you of what already has been. This is the quiet alchemy of the soul, where judgment turns into understanding, where distance becomes connection, where the old urge to fix is replaced with a willingness to witness. You no longer try to change the world by force. You change the world by becoming so deeply yourself that others are inspired to do the same. The language of your life shifts. Instead of urgency, you speak through presence. Instead of proving, you express. Instead of asking, how can I get more? You begin to wonder, how can I embody more of what I already am? This shift is not theoretical. It is felt in your posture, your choices, the way you breathe when no one is watching. You begin to cherish the space between moments. You no longer live only for the peaks. You find holiness in the valleys. You let silence speak. You allow endings their dignity. You no longer rush to fill the void. You sit with it, knowing that within it lies the womb of creation. And from this sacred center, new desires arise not to possess, but to participate. Not to escape, but to engage. Not to rise above life, but to melt into it fully, unguarded, awake. Your dreams become less about validation and more about contribution. You ask not how high you can climb, but how deeply you can serve. Even your concept of time begins to unravel. The future no longer lures you with false promises, and the past no longer drags at your heels. You find yourself living not in linear progression, but in circular expansion. Each day becomes not a task, but a temple. Each interaction, a ritual, each breath, a sacred contract to remain open. And there, in that openness, you begin to glimpse the real miracle. That life is not waiting to bless you later. It is blessing you now, always now, in forms you had not learned to see. In the breeze that brushes your cheek, in the laughter that spills without warning, in the way your heart softens at the sight of a stranger's kindness. The divine does not always arrive as thunder, it often tiptoes in with grace. And what was once called ordinary begins to shimmer. And as the shimmer of the ordinary begins to reveal itself, you come to understand that grace is not a rare event, it is the natural fragrance of awareness. It is what seeps through the cracks when resistance gives way to reverence. You stop waiting for some grand revelation and begin to recognize that every step, every sigh, every unnoticed moment is steeped in the sacred. You no longer need the extraordinary to awaken you, because you've been reintroduced to the miracle of what already is. You begin to walk softer, not out of fear, but out of awe. The ground beneath you, once taken for granted, becomes a living pulse, as if the earth itself is whispering, I carry you. And you believe it now. You feel yourself being held not by people, not by outcomes, but by the living presence of something vast, tender, and immeasurable. You do not need to name it. You only need to rest in it. This rest is not inactivity. It is the deepest form of participation. It is presence without pretense, engagement without entanglement. You move, yes, but not from striving. You speak, but no longer to impress. You act, but from a place of wholeness, not hunger. The noise within you quiets, not because life becomes simple, but because your identity is no longer tangled in complexity. And from this stillness, your purpose begins to rise, not as a role, not as a job, not as a task to accomplish, but as a natural overflow of being. You understand now that your purpose is not something to find, it is something to remember, something to feel into, something that arises effortlessly when you are no longer performing life, but participating in its flow. You do not need to make yourself useful to prove your worth. Your very being is already of service. Your peace is medicine. Your authenticity is liberation. Your joy is a beacon. You were not born to fix the world. You were born to bring your presence to it, to infuse it with your light, not by effort, but by alignment. And this alignment does not come from learning more, doing more, becoming more. It comes from less from unlearning, from unclenching, from undoing the knots tied by fear and expectation. It is in the letting go that your soul takes its rightful place, no longer a whisper drowned out by striving, but a song that guides your every step. You do not need a map when you are the compass. You do not need to ask where the path begins, because it starts beneath your feet, wherever you are. You begin to walk not in pursuit, but in embodiment. You begin to move not towards something, but from something ancient, something silent, something true. And in this state, life no longer feels like a test you must pass, but a mystery you are invited to live. You hold paradox gently now. You understand that joy can sit beside sorrow, that uncertainty can coexist with peace, that not knowing can be its own kind of knowing. You have stopped trying to force life into shapes that make sense to the mind and started letting life carve shapes in your soul. And the more space you allow for the unknown, the more magic reveals itself. And now, as you stand at the edge of this sacred remembering, something deep within you bows not in defeat, but in devotion. The long journey of becoming has led you not away from yourself, but inward, where the map fades and the miracle begins. You are no longer chasing the horizon. You have become the horizon. No longer reaching for the stars, you have realized they are within you, burning quietly in the silence of your soul. You see now that you were never lost. You are only wandering through the illusion of separation, tracing the outlines of who you are by touching everything you are not. Every detour, every ache, every unanswered prayer, they were not wrong turns, but invitations. Each one led you deeper into this unveiling, this sacred shedding of the false, until only the true remained. You feel the ground beneath you, as if for the first time, not just as soil and stone, but as the living memory of something timeless holding you in its breath. You are rooted now, not in certainty, but in truth. Not in knowing all the answers, but in finally trusting the one who has been asking the questions. There is a softness to your presence now, a radiance not born of effort, but of surrender. You do not need to shine, the light moves through you freely because you have stopped trying to control its direction. You are not performing for the world's approval. You are listening to the rhythm of your own essence, and that rhythm is enough. It always has been. You do not need to explain yourself anymore. Not to those who misunderstood your stillness, not to those who could not see your depth, not even to the voice within that once whispered, "Not yet, not enough." That voice no longer governs your steps. It has grown quiet in the presence of something greater, the knowing that you are already whole. You are no longer seeking belonging. You have become belonging itself, a sanctuary for the weary, a mirror for the forgotten, a reminder for the lost. Your life, just as it is, becomes a blessing, not because it is free from pain, but because it is free from pretending. You carry the universe now, not as a concept, but as a lived truth. You walk as one who knows they are not a fragment of something broken, but a thread in the great tapestry of all that is. You breathe not to survive, but to sanctify. You love not to be completed, but to remember that you already are. And in this final return, not to a destination, but to presence, you find peace. Not the fleeting peace that depends on silence or safety, but the eternal peace that was never absent, only obscured. The peace that says you are exactly where you are meant to be. You are not behind. You are not late. You are life expressing itself perfectly. So take this moment, not as an ending, but as a return. Lay down your armor. Loosen your grip. Let the winds of grace move through you. Trust the rhythm that has guided the stars and shaped your soul. You belong to the universe not as a visitor, not as a seeker, but as a beloved expression of its infinite heart. And the universe has never once stopped belonging to you. Breathe and remember, you are home. You are whole. You are holy. You are free.